What's up, dudes? It's ET13 and welcome back to yet another Godzilla King of the Monsters news video. And I promise this will be the last one until the next bit of news comes out. So, what this will be is I'm going to summarize the 4 pages we got scanned of the Total Film magazine article of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and man, there was a lot to take in. But I'll go page by page, and if there's any new photos, I'll just tag those on at the end and basically break them down. There's not a whole lot, but anyway, this will be like a 15-minute video because I am doing the best I can to get all the info out to you guys without having to read everything. So, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with the first page I read, which is this one you'll see on your screen right now. So, this is the first page I read, so we're going to start from left to right, and I'm going to start off with Monster Wranglers, which is basically them talking about the special effects side of Godzilla King of the Monsters. And they used exactly what they did in 2014 for Godzilla in this movie, which is really cool. Though they had a smaller head and the shoulders are broader, which I didn't notice those, and that's really interesting. And to add a personality to all of the monsters, they really emphasized on the eyes and face muscles, which is another good way to really build up the character of these giant monsters. But they also tried to keep the sense of scale from 2014, while I'll get into it a little bit later, what they did differently. But they used a lot of Komodo dragons and lizards for Godzilla to keep him semi-real. And I really like that they're trying to still base this in reality while they realize what they're doing. But for Mothra, they used moths and wasps. They also worked on praying mantises, which I find it interesting because all those things people said this Mothra looked like. So I guess they did exactly what they were aiming for. Yay them. And they did try to keep it female. And I think they did a good job on that. Mothra still seems to be a female. And for Rodan, they looked at a lot of birds and dinosaur bones. But they especially focused on vultures. And of course, no bird or dinosaur had magma on it. So they had to do that differently. But as for Ghidorah, they looked at both lizards and snakes for Ghidorah, but they mostly focused on cobras. And they tried to make him very snake-like when he moved, but when all 3 heads moved together in unison, they looked at how wolves and wolf packs did movement, and that's how they really created the movement for Ghidorah. And moving on to the main paragraphs there, it says that Michael Dougherty has been drawing Godzilla since he was in grade school. He actually found a Bible that he owned from back then, and he saw in it he had drew Godzilla, and that's pretty funny. I like how Michael Dougherty really seems to be a Godzilla fan. He again stated that, he likes Gareth Edwards' approach and Jordan Vogue Roberts' approach in Kong Skull Island. But this time he decided to put a lot of creature action in it and really embrace the fantasy elements of Godzilla. But he did try to keep it as grounded as possible, but he did realize that he can't do a whole lot of that. He has to make it fanciful. But anyway, moving on down to the in the family part, we have the first details of the beginning of the movie. And this is what they say. It starts off in the wreckage of San Francisco. And just as the theory suggested, the Russell family lost somebody, which is either a younger sister or brother. And in this loss, they decided to then separate. The Russells divorced, and they compare them to the Brodies from 2014, how far-stretched they were, which I find that really interesting. However, they did say, instead of taking a more action hero approach, this is more of a regular human approach. And I like that. This really brings more heart to the movie. And then it went in talking about Emma and Mark. They are both scientists, and Emma has a lot of trauma from losing a son or daughter, and from basically losing their home in San Francisco. Then she created, now, as we've seen in the trailer and from other reports, she's created a Titan communication device called the Orca. And somehow she finds a way to beat the monsters, stating that man haven't found a way with their bullets and their lasers, and that she really was a big part into helping defeat the monsters, which I find interesting. That really makes me wonder how they now defeat these monsters, if somehow she helps. And then it talked about Mark Russell, and he is an animal behavior expert. And that really explains on how he does look at Godzilla differently than she does. He looks at him as a monster and an animal, and, well, not a monster, but an animal, while Emma looks at him as a monster. And he did say that while filming King Kong in 2005, it really helped him prepare for this movie. And then, as we get down to the very bottom corner of this paragraph, well, not the paragraph, but this page, it says, the reason Millie Bobby Brown chose Godzilla King of the Monsters for her debut film is because of the legacy that Godzilla has. And that is really amazing to know that people do realize that Godzilla has a legacy, and she was honored to be in it. And that really, I like it whenever modern day actors and actresses do pay tributes to stuff that came before them, because that was a really big part of history of film. And then it went into why she decided to be on this project even more, which was because of Michael Dougherty. And really it was because he had worked with animal rights movements, and he had worked with animals, or she loves animals. So, yeah, from this first page, it really gave us a lot of info, especially onto what the beginning of the movie is. And I guarantee you that shots in the first trailer, I believe, where it showed San Francisco, is from the first 5 minutes of Godzilla King of the Monsters. Anyway, let's get on to the next page. And this page continues on talking about what 2014 and this one have in common and different. And it first starts talking about while 2014 was a father and son-like movie, that this one is more of a mother and daughter story. And it was really easy for everybody on set and the actors to really have that family dynamic. And basically, everybody had a great time on set. Nobody ever had any problems, and when they did, they easily worked them out. And that's really amazing that on set this was really a family perspective of what filming a movie should be. And as it continues, it talks about how on set everybody helped Millie Bobby Brown out as much as they could, because she is new to filming a movie. And according to this article, it talks about how she was surprised by the special effects between filming and post-production. She was blown away by how a small tennis ball became Godzilla. And that's really amazing to think that people are baffled by Godzilla. That's really amazing. And as it continues, it talks about how Michael Dougherty talked about how difficult it was writing in the human story while not getting rid of all the Godzilla elements of the movie. And he said that at least a third of the movie needs to be devoted to the monsters, and that the characters shouldn't be the main focus. It should be the title characters. And that in this movie, he realized that he has to cast good actors and actresses in these roles to really get you to like these characters. And he's right, you have to have good actors to like the characters that they bring to the table. And then he then started talking about how he went back to the original Toho movies and looked at the designs and made them to be true to the original. He kept the key factors of all the monsters, though. However, he did slightly update them for modern audiences, which is amazing. I love the fact that Michael Dougherty is a Godzilla fan. And in a Q&A session with Vera Farmiga, she stated that this was the most action-packed movie she's been in, and basically the rest was talking about other projects she's in or was in, so I'm not really going to talk about those. And again, Michael Dougherty talked about how he wanted to take the natural world and put it into this movie. And that's amazing. And what I really like about this is he then said when he was a kid watching those movies, he didn't look at them as men in rubber suits. He looked at them as these mystic, powerful, ancient, godlike creatures and really wanted to put that into his film. And then before this page wraps up, he talked about this awesome quote that I just love, and I really would like to put this on a shirt. It's so amazing. The quote goes, "We kept saying we wanted to put the God back into Godzilla," which, when he says that, he means the mystic traits, the quality of the movie, and to the soundtrack, a la Akari Ifukube, though he does bring up such as Claire de Lune in the first trailer. And that's why he brought on Bear McCreary, because of the stuff he had worked on, such as Battlestar Galactica. He knew that he could really add that feeling that this movie needed for its soundtrack. And then this page goes on saying that Michael Dougherty wanted the music to fit the mood of the movie, being this ancient, mysterious, and powerful score, and not such of a modern score. Of course, that's why he brought on Bear McCreary, but he also brought in drummers from Japan and Japanese priests to chant. And some of the lyrics that they chant are very significant to the score and the film. And then Michael Dougherty went in on describing his score as more of an operatic score. And another amazing quote he said is, "I'd like to say, if Star Wars is a space opera, then what we're creating is a monster opera." I love that quote. That's another one that needs to be put on a shirt, because that's amazing. I really love that quote. He then went on talking about he loved his trip to Toho Studios, and he had a lot of fun doing stuff, like going on the soundstage of the original 1954 Godzilla movie, and like wearing suits, or at least parts of Godzilla suits from older movies. And he also went in saying that this movie was almost a biblical treatment. He also talked about adding in his own spin on the monsters, such as Godzilla's lair, and he went into details since he was a child. He had always wondered where Godzilla went at the end of a movie, because at the end he always just swam away. So he found a way to put that into this movie, and I really like how he's adding in what he liked as a kid and what he thought as a kid. But anyway, he goes on saying lots of hints to other things that happen in the MonsterVerse happen in this movie. There are also layers upon layers of Easter eggs. They're still even adding in more as post-production continues. They're also adding in stuff at the end credits. So whether it be a name or a song or something, there's so many Easter eggs in this movie, and I can't wait to watch the movie and be like, there's that. Oh, that's referencing this. It's like Marvel fans and Marvel movies, except it's Godzilla, and it's about time we've had this. And then it actually goes into some detail, adding in that Adam Wingard, the director of Godzilla vs. Kong, was on set for a couple of days. And it goes on saying Godzilla vs. Kong is the culmination of the MonsterVerse. And that when he visited, they also, and when I say they, I mean Michael Dougherty and the other writer for Godzilla King of the Monsters, actually got to sit down and tweak the script a little, adding in some themes that were in this one, and some more character development, really fleshing out all the characters. And then Total Film talked to people such as Kyle Chandler, and he said that both directors are completely different. And on the other hand, Millie Bobby Brown said that they're both monster fanboys. They know every single detail, and it further tells that she had a lot of fun with both, and that gives me some hope. I've been a little nervous about Godzilla vs. Kong, but after hearing news such as this, I have a feeling it'll go over pretty good. So let's hope for that. And the last thing this article really talked about was that Michael Dougherty was super excited and thrilled when he got to write for King Kong because he had never done that before. And I think that's just amazing. But anyway, I missed the first page, and now we're going to come back to that, and then I'm going to read you the little favorite Titans footprints on all the pages, and then break down any images that are new that I didn't break down earlier. So, I'll be right back. And now we're on to the last page, which is actually the first page, but I did them in order except for this one. But anyway, basically this page is saying Michael Dougherty described this movie while making it as exhausting, and then he went on talking about how the final film is done, and that is unprecedented for a big multi-million-dollar movie to be done 6 months in advance. Now it's only about 3, but he said now they're working on various international and home video versions, and this really gets me excited. International probably just means like China and all that, so that's not really interesting. However, the home video versions is where it gets me. Could this be a backdoor confirmation of an extended cut, or director's commentary, or maybe tons of bonus features and deleted scenes, maybe even a 3D version, or heck, maybe even some bonus exclusive features for like a Target exclusive? This really has me excited, and I can't wait to see what home video has in store for us. But anyway, to get back into the article, it goes on saying that this is his biggest directing job yet, and Michael Dougherty then went on saying that Toho already did this back in the 60s and 70s, and he's really happy that Warner Brothers and Legendary is really doing this. He really loves the idea about a cullinated universe of giant monsters. And then it goes into detail about 2014 and Kong Skull Island, really giving us the backstory. And then it goes on saying that Michael Dougherty had free reign while directing this movie. The only things he had to include was Rodan, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Monarch. And other than that, he could do whatever he wanted to do, which is really amazing. And to finally wrap up this article, he said that he was obsessed with these characters ever since he was a toddler, which is pretty funny, because that really shows that he is a Godzilla fan. And you may think I'm done, because I know I just put out 17 minutes of info to you, but we are almost done. I just have to break down a few minor things. All we have left is 2 new images, and then one of my favorite things about this article is favorite monsters that each of these actors had. So let's jump into that right now. And to start this off, we'll do Kyle Chandler's and his saying, I mean, if there's got to be one, it's got to be the old man himself, you know. It's Godzilla, king of the monsters. I like that, but there's not a whole lot to break down here, so next. And here's the man himself, Michael Dougherty. His says it would be Godzilla. He's the original. And then, out of the other 3, it's hard. It's really hard. At one point in my life, I had 3 dogs. If you were to ask me who was my favorite, I don't know. If I could tell you, it would depend on the moment. I love them all for different reasons. And I just love Michael Dougherty's response. Really, again, you can see that he is such a Godzilla fan. And then here's Verafarmigos. In an earlier video, I said that this was Ken Watanabe talking about Mothra. I was wrong. And anyway, it says, hands down, Mothra is stunning for me. She has added superpower of being able to give birth. That's a strength that the male kaijus will never be able to comprehend for sure. I think she's the most graceful as well. And I do think this actually reveals something to us. I think this just confirmed that Mothra could potentially die in this movie and give birth to another Mothra, which could be a reason why we don't see a whole lot of Mothra in this movie, or it could be a flashback of the original Mothra giving birth to the new one. But I do think that does have some context of Mothra in this movie. And for the final, we will do Millie Bobby Brown's. And hers says, I love Godzilla, but apart from Godzilla, it would be Mothra, because she's the new girl of the movie, and she's just seriously mean. This is a child-friendly channel. She just is so cool, and she's really pretty when she does her intimidating display. That would be my favorite monster of the movie. And I believe I said this in another video, but again, I think this is interesting. She says intimidating display, which I believe could be a reference to the Godzilla eyes on her wings, or something more serious than that. But that's it for these 4 pages of this article. There were 2 images that are new, but they're just characters standing around looking at stuff. There's no need to break them down because I just did. And I know this was a super long video, but I hope this was an in-depth summary of this so you don't have to read it. And yeah. Comment down below what you think of this article. I love this. I love Michael Dougherty even more because of everything he's done for us. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't let King Kong make a monkey out of you, G-fans. See ya.